Ndey Jobarteh has been engaged in activism for several years. Asked to comment on the present political situation within the opposition UDP, this is what Ndey Jobarteh said.
I think as Gambians, we are not used to internal politics. We are not used to political differences. We are used to following through. Is it one person or two person? We just follow through everything. So this is normal. Internal political differences, internal political fights and quarrels. They are something very normal. In Norway last year, we had the same situation here. The largest party, because we are going to election in a couple of days, on the 8th. The largest political party in this country went into a serious fight to the point that they were asking the leader to resign because the mornings, or how do they call it again in English? The the polls were so low. The party have never been that low in polls, in the polling for how many years? And they were like, this is so bad. So the leader, the party leader should resign. And the party leader is the current president. And they were demanding his resignation. And they went into negotiation. The whole country was like in a standstill. And they went into negotiation back and forth, back and forth. They brought new people, and then he's still here. Things change actually. He managed to turn around with it. So this is normal in any political setting, in any political party. There is no normality to have internal fights, internal political uh, quarrels, and also leadership challenges as well becomes there because you have new, like UDP. UDP has grown. There are a lot of vibrant new potential leaders in UDP. So it's expected that these situations will happen. The only thing I always say that us Gambians, the way we handle things, like you can talk about these things, you can fight about these things without going personal. This is where I have a problem. You don't have to go into personal. You don't have to get into insults. This is where the challenge is. But it's a normal process. And I see this as a growth for UDP. If it everybody people used to complain about is just one man. Now, as you said, we're having 11 people challenging the leadership. That is progress. If you look at it, that is progress, that is development. And then to see new crop of leaders emerging to challenge when everybody, people talk about nobody dare challenge the party leader. Now we are seeing that challenge to the point that it was like a dead end. So I think this is very positive, and I wish Talib has stayed and really follow through because leadership, these are tests of leadership. To run a country is not a joke.
The Gambia has never had a female president. Is the country going to elect one in 2026?
Yes, Gambia has extremely formidable women. You have Fatou Jan Senghor. I don't know whether you know her. She was heading the Africa, I think, in Dakar, Article 19. And she's formidable. You have the younger ones, even you have the Aminata Korea, who has been even in the politics. You have a couple of them. There are many of them. I cannot just get it top of my head, but there are extremely strong women who can take charge. But you see, because this government also have been very bad in terms of supporting women or in terms of bringing women into the leadership. Because if you look at cabinet, if you look at parliament, we have gone minus. We have gone really bad in terms of representation. And the more you don't have more women representing, women are tend to people tend to forget them. And if you look at the media, when you talk about political analysis, when issues happen, they don't bring women. They are there.
Ndey Jobarteh said she is praying that the country embrace a new leader in 2026.
Pray every day that 2026 there should be a new leader because it's time. Because what is happening in the Gambia, unless I don't know, I always say that unless you are part of the government, unless you are part of those who are enjoying, you would be the only person saying that everything is okay. Because we are seeing serious situation. Gambia is at a crossroad. We are at a crossroad. I mean, since we removed Jame, there was lots of euphoria. People have hope. There was lots of hope for change, hope for things to work, hope for, because we were not expecting miracle, but at least basic things. But now we are seeing Gambian going to abject poverty. We are seeing extreme poverty, extreme crime, extreme corruption. All these things are happening in the country, and it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good because when you look at Gambia, if you are somebody who knows the geopolitics of Africa, you understand some of these situations. You look at Gambia, you are seeing a sign of instability because it's all there. A country where crime is high, a country where corruption is high, a country where people don't even cannot even buy their daily meal. That's a security threat, serious security threat. And 2026 is determined. We have to determine to change that dimension, and changing that means Barrow being removed, Barrow being voted out in 2026 because we cannot afford it. And I always tell Gambians, we have to be honest. We really have to be honest to ourselves. This is not about liking or not liking Barrow. We are talking about running this country. We are talking about the lives of over 3 million, 2 million people in this country. We are talking about the life of the Gambian people. We are talking about debt. Just a couple of days ago, we saw IMF increasing more money to the country. That money is us. It's our money. We have to pay it. When I see people celebrating, I laugh because this is sad because we're indebted, and continue to take. So the government cannot run the country. President Barrow cannot run this country. So African leaders are not good at resigning, are not good at saying that it's enough. They are there to the point that they become refugees because that is what has been the trend. And I hope President Barrow will listen to this, would really understand that he cannot run this country and it's time to go, not allow people to push him because of their own interests, their own survival, not for the Gambia. The reality, we all know it. Another thing about is this insults that people run away as well. Women are more sensitive to these issues of being insulted because I've been insulted all the time because I write a lot. I react to things. I write on my Facebook and I get insults, all kinds of insults and even threats. I get it. But I just say, you know what? This is my space and nobody is going to stop me from saying what I have to say. And nobody is going to threaten me not to talk about what I have to talk about. But a lot of women struggle because the space is so nasty. The political state is so nasty, but that shouldn't stop us. That because we have to be agencies, we have to be part of this process of change. But media also have to make concerted effort to add women because the issue of Gambia is not just men. It's not just men who have the knowledge of it. In fact, the people who really suffer when this situation, when such crisis, is the women because they are the ones navigating food in the house, children's school fees here, clothes in the house. Are they washed? Have the children eaten? Have they gone to school? Have school fees been paid? Are they playing outside? They navigate the realities of what affects us as a people in a country. When you are kicked out from school, you even though even if your dad is paying it, you go to your mom. Because straight, that's the first person you go to talk about that and then try to get them solve it. So it's very important for the media also to make a little bit concerted effort to make sure that Gambia is men and women and to be able to push a little bit to bring some of these women on the platforms to discuss some of these challenges and issues. I know, yes, it can be difficult, but of course the space is really bad. But the more women comes out, the better.
What is your take on the migrant issue? A lot of youths are leaving the Gambia. Not long ago, there was an accident of a migrant boat in which they say the boat was from the Gambia. So
Hmm.
there are a lot of frustration in the country, and you've been in Europe for some time. What kind of challenges do you get with regard to Gambians asking for help, or with regard to Gambians complaining about the economic conditions in the country that is, I mean, prompting them to leave?
Lot because I got a lot of young people who would ask you for help, who would ask you for help for as little as school fees, or I want to start a business, or I start a business and things happen, it didn't work. You get young people want to study abroad as well. And yeah, and these are some of the issues. They will tell you they have nothing. They cannot even help their parents. They're staying with their parents. I started my company in Gambia, Jobs Consulting, and we do training for human resource training where we train young people into CV writing and cover letter writing, skill buildings and communications. And then we do advertisements for jobs, for vacancies, and then we have scholarships as well. And during that also, a lot of young people tend to have contact because sometimes they will apply for jobs on our website and then they need help to write these CVs. How do they write CVs? But these are the challenges, and young people have been really a headache for me because the number of young people going through these dangerous journeys and the death, dying, and you live in Europe. I mean, just imagine wintertime. These young people, they're just wearing jean jacket, light jacket into the sea when there's ice and all these things. That dying is terrible. It's a terrible death because just imagine you go outside, just stay how many hours with just light jacket, and you see how you frost, the pain of even being frozen, and the cold water, the ice water, dying into that. It's sad. And you hear stories about young people, how somebody just start hallucinating. You are told that you are a witch, you throw into the sea to die. Can you imagine? It's horrible. And for me, what is worrying is the fact that the government doesn't care. That worries me. The fact that the government doesn't have any feeling around the horrible death our children are dying. The horrible, even some of them who make it, they end up going mental. In some of the cities we see in Italy, sometimes you will see on social media, they will say this person is not well and they're looking for the families living in the streets. These are the repercussions of this journey. So a government, Gambia is, in fact, before, I don't know whether Niger is among the fourth in countries that are using this back way. Why the government doesn't care? I know IOM have been in the Gambia trying to solve these things, but you need the government will. They know who are these people taking these children on this journey. They know who are the traffickers. They know these people. They could have done something to stop first those people trafficking them, to make sure that these traffickers are arrested and prosecuted so that it deters the others, and then to create jobs, to create activities for these young people. It's not just like you train 1,000 young people. You train them on what? You train them and send them out. You have thousands of hundreds of graduates. You graduate them and then what? A nation have to be able to look at what are my needs? What do I need in the country? How do I create jobs around it? In Gambia, we struggle with, just to give you example, because when people say, but it's easy to talk. It's not easy to talk. It's a reality. In Gambia, we struggle with bread all the time. Every time there is problem with scarcity of bread or this and that, or even if there is program, the Senegalese or the Guineans when go back to their countries for those period, there is scarcity of bread. Take Banjul, just gather 10 youths or 5 youths, put them in a bread project and get business developers to help them to build that. 5 youths, give them 1 million, 2 million, I don't know how much it's got, 1 million, 2 million to start a bakery. Get a business developer to guide them. Already you've created 5 employment. And if you get a business developer to follow them through their journey and advising them and helping them, you create maybe another 10, 15 jobs. You do that in different areas as well. I mean, it's quite simple. It's just the government is not creating job. It's not inward looking. It's not investing. Because I always tell people job creation is simple. Just look at what are the needs in the country. What do people want? I mean, peanut butter. People, Gambians cook domada all the time. I mean, the peanut butter is there. We have lots of groundnut there. Why not processing? Why not process this thing and make it so easy locally packaged? That's also a job creation. So government is just not interested. What they're interested is the cash flow. how much money they are pocketing, how many salary they're having, how many the nice cars they are riding. They just don't care because when they're driving, their cars are covered, tinted. They're not even seeing, they don't want to know. And what I tell people, what really pains me and make me sad, most of these ministers come from the rural areas. Most of these ministers have struggled to go to school, have struggled to put food, their families to put food on the table. What happened when they get this position? Because I would expect they would be more willing to help and do. And I tell people, when people tell ministers, we say that it's not easy. It's not easy. Resign. Allow somebody else to take over and try. Because if you cannot, just resign. And then because the fact that government don't have benchmarks, they don't have KPIs where they will measure you and said, we put you here as a minister of employment. When we need 1,000 jobs, you don't create end of the year, tell us how many jobs you have created. If you don't create, let us know why. What can we do to help you? If we see it's not working, you bring somebody else. That doesn't happen. Gambia, nobody's accountable. Nobody. You just there, you enjoy yourself, you are paid salary, you are traveling, you are doing all these things. Nobody cares. So there's no accountability. So if you don't have accountability, you cannot fix the problem. How do you fix a problem when you don't even know it's solved or not? When you even don't have like the KPIs, this is A, B, C, and Z that needs to be done this year. These are the numbers we're looking at. These are the results we're looking at. And then you are assessed based on that. We don't have that. It's like a whole blind way of running the country. And of course, the president doesn't have understanding of these things, doesn't have a clue around all these things, doesn't understand these dynamics. So it makes it even difficult. That's why when people talking about you don't need education to be president, I say that is dangerous because if the president cannot assess basic things, cannot understand these things. I'm a manager. If my staff if my staff knows more than I do, if my staff understand more the organization, the institution, understand more than I do, how can I assess them? They can be better than me, that is true. But I have to know honestly, I always tell people, even the ministers, even those defending Barrow, when they sit and be honest to themselves, they know that the issue is not about the man is not clueless, it's he doesn't understand. He doesn't understand how to run a state. He doesn't understand how to run a country. He cannot analyze, assess all these reports that are coming into him, all these things that are coming. He cannot. I mean, just think about audit reports. We have tons of audit reports that are that should have even demanded President Barrow to resign. Honestly, in another country, he will resign because it's scandalous, the audit reports. Now tell me, how do you expect President Barrow, who doesn't have understanding of these things, who doesn't have the level of education to understand these things, and not willing even to learn, because he could have brought the auditors, the experts, and sit with them to really translate this thing to make it even to understand. But he's not even interested in that too. So the lack of education, the lack of understanding of analyzing these things and putting this into the right context is a problem. And the lack of willingness to learn is also another problem, because for 7, 8 years now, if you don't understand these things, it's serious. We saw when he talked about the audit reports is just an opinion, but that tells the lack of understanding, because what the auditors told him about the opinion part of the audit report, he misunderstood it. We all saw, even though people were laughing about it, but I said it's a lack of understanding. He didn't understand what they mean by that. Days ago, I don't know whether you follow the news, the Russian oil saga thing. Now they decide to say there's no corruption when Parliament came out and clearly state that there were corruption. But the government came out and said there were no corruption. Because of course those sitting there will go and tell President Barrow that, because you see, the thing of reading and understanding these things and being able to have your own ability to assess them is one of the key things. running a country. Because if you don't, this is where we are. People should study Barrow and understand the dynamics of leadership. This thing of his clueless, all this thing, it's not just said in vacuum, because it's serious threat. If he cannot understand this to the point that these ministers will go and tell him that, oh, you don't worry, there's no corruption, da, 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 and explain and run with it. So he's been blindfolded. And honestly, if I was President Barrow, I would resign, because I don't have the capability to run this country. And this is where I said the danger, because President Barrow should by now himself should be scrolling through the news by himself. He should be scrolling through Facebook, with their social media, which they are so scared, and they make him so scared of it. Scrolling alone on social media. Look, one of our ministers in Norway here, our president will be online writing, and people will be attacking. And so this attack is all over the place. It's not just Gambia. One of the ministers, foreign affairs minister, our former foreign, and we were chatting because there was a thing she wrote and people were really angry with, and then going. And we met at a conference, and I said, "Oh, I saw you. People are really, jumping at you. This topic was very controversial." And she said, we use the social media to test policies, because it's not just the survey you send, the thing you, but social media, people, so they are real self, because they are real self. Because when we put those things out there, people will react, because there is no filter. There is nothing hide. They sit behind, yes, you will say they sit behind their keyboard, but they speak from their heart. So we can see, wow, this is not popular. Then we match it to the survey we did, we match it to the research we did. And sometimes we realize that in fact, what the research is showing is different from what the people are saying. He said, because there's a lot of our people there. So we use it to test, and that's why we sometimes bring these things up, just to test the waters. What are people thinking? What are people? And then she was telling me, we get lots of ideas as well, because people will come, because they're social media are just people, are not just useless people, they are experts on social media. They are highly people with high knowledge, expertise, who are there as well. So I'm like, yeah, but it's very different from our end, because in Gambia they are scared of social media. So these are some of these things. President Bolo could sit down and have a iPad, go through in the morning before he start work, go through, come the whole social media, check what is happening, check the news, Google Gambia and see what they are writing about Gambia, go into and then brief himself about what is happening, and then compare to what he's hearing. So leadership is about engagement. You engage, you are active.
Let's talk about tribalism. This has been an issue that has been dragging on. Gambians were not so much sensitive or so much concern about tribe, but now it's now becoming sort of a cancer in our body politic. What do you have to say about this issue?
Yes,
Unfortunately,
I've seen a couple of articles on this tribalism, and it's sad. We have lived, I grew up in Banjul. I was born and brought up in Banjul before my parents moved to Fajara, but I lived to grow up Banjul. I still call myself Banjulian, because I said, I don't know much about Fajara because I left before that. Um, we live together in Banjul with many different people. We tease each other. My father is Mandinka from Nyamina Kudang. My mother is a Wolof from Banjul. We speak Wolof at home, despite my father being Mandinka. My grandmother is Jola, and my grandfather is Tukulor. And I'm not talking about Jola by the name real Jola, because they spoke Jola. Even my mom, despite being Wolof, speak Jola as well, because of my mother. So we grow up with all these families. Our Jola families will be coming from Casamas, from Binjona. They will come and visit. Our Tukurul families will come and visit. We see them. Even my half family is, they are Christians. Our Christian families will come, like my cousins, my aunties who are Christian, they will come to the house. We all live without an issue. Yes, there were some little bit those tendencies, but we used to tease each other. I even have classmates, friends, that hanga sauce and sauce can, so we used to tease each other like all these things. But you see, I tell people, the problem is not this tribal thing that people say, sauce be da da da, sauce du fijite, or ki of la, ki lila. That is out of the question. What we have, which is so dangerous, that also took tribalism to another level, is state tribalism. I wrote a little article around it. It's the state tribalism, which started by Jammeh. The state using tribe to entrench itself. This started with Jammeh slowly, but because that time it was more geared towards the Mandinkas, people didn't see it. But this was the state tribalism that was engineered by Jammeh. Barrow, after he took over Jammeh's people, we start seeing them using state tribalism. So if the state used tribalism as a machinery, that's the most dangerous and lethal. We saw Rwanda. It took a radio program to light the whole country. Because when the state is involved in tribalism, that's when we should be worried. And we should be talking about state tribalism, not those individuals. Because if the state let go, it's easy to deal with the individual because then it dies out. If a president is sitting in a platform and people are spewing tribal sentences, tribal words, and he's sitting there, that is dangerous. And it's so unfortunate people don't talk about that because that is where the problem is. If the first time in the history, even Jammeh with all his brutalities, we've never seen Jammeh inviting people to sit up based on tribe. Barrow did that consequently. We've never seen ministers going around sparing because Barrow they go into their platform, ministers using tribalism. Recently, we saw Sidi Njai as well, standing in a platform with the First Lady, entrenching tribalism live. So these are not hidden things. I mean, I always say, Gambian, if you want to talk about things, let's be honest about it. If we want to change this country, we all have to be honest, brutally honest. And you know what is even dangerous? The tribalism has gone to the level of academics, intellectuals being polluted by that.
In part 2 of our series, find out what Ndey Jobarteh has to say about the issue of Jammeh's return to the Gambia.